involved in the education world a little bit.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about your podcast, but
Ah,
that's kind of it.
wonderful. Yeah, I just recorded an episode this morning. The one I did this morning was the first one I've recorded in person, so that was a pretty cool experience. I went downtown, interviewed a judge, so it's a lot different doing it with like an actual camera and an actual person sitting next to me instead of just doing it on Zoom. So it was a lot
Oh,
of fun.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, well, the first thing you have to say as part of it is, I'm just gonna
Yeah. So
describe
what?
how we.
Yeah. What's the class? What's the assignment?
Okay, so it's a Jewish studies class, and basically the main purpose of this is to like, I guess, determine the Jewishness of my interviewee. So
Okay.
I'm
Probably
just gonna.
not very, but
Yeah, it's completely fine. It's completely fine. Um, the whole purpose is just get different perspectives from everyone. So, the first part of this is I'm just gonna
yeah.
describe how we
Before
met.
before before you
Yeah.
start, do you need to record this? Do you need to take notes?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna record it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Just don't forget to press record.
Yes. I think stop recording.
Is it recording already?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I
Okay.
just have it recording right now. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. I don't want to finish a meeting and realize nothing was recorded.
Yeah, just make sure. If you're recording it through Zoom, there should be um it should show up like in the upper left corner of the screen that it's recording right now.
Okay. Yeah. 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 It does.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So the first part is I'm just gonna describe how we met, and I'm just gonna spell out your name. That's just it's kind of
Okay.
weird, but it's part of it. So, we first met through a Science UIL, and um, you were the, I guess, instructor, the one leading the UIL academics, and your name is Adam Gamic, Adamcampac, correct? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay. Um, so I guess the first question is, how do you describe your background as a Jewish individual?
Yeah. So, um in terms of a family background, I mean this goes back as far as I know. Like there wasn't some sort of conversion along the way, to my knowledge. It's not like I have one parent who's Jewish and one parent who's not. Um, that experience would be different. Um, for me, as far back as I can trace anything genealogically, we're Jewish. Um, and this is a significant part of my family history and of my background. All of my great grandparents were in Europe and eventually came over to the United States because they were fleeing some sort of persecution of some kind and seeking better opportunities. Um, this is very much part and parcel of my family background. In terms of my background specifically for me outside of the family components, so I had a bar mitzvah when I was 13. My parents and I were members of a synagogue from the time I was in fourth grade uh, up until when I was in college. And I also went to a Jewish preschool and continue to go to synagogue, not on a regular basis per se, but certainly a few times a year, celebrate holidays and be influenced by Judaism uh, over the course of the year.
Interesting. Yeah. Actually, right now we were learning about how I guess the viewed America as like a promised land to them for like economic opportunities and to flee persecution. Exactly what you said. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, and something to add here that might be maybe I don't know if this has come up in your class. Uh, but at the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, the United States and Argentina were the two wealthiest countries in the Americas. So for a lot of Eastern European Jews who were fleeing persecution, on my maternal grandfather's side, we have relatives where some stayed in Europe, some came to the U.S., and some went to Argentina because, as I said, those are the two main countries that people were seeking refuge in at the time. Then there was then a later uh, strand of family heritage. My maternal grandmother's side, they came over on the eve of World War II, escaping the Nazis.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, and this was the case for a lot of European immigrants, right? The United States was viewed as the land of opportunity, a safe haven from religious persecution and intolerance, and a place to start a business and make a good living and have a good chance economically. Um, but yeah, I was just in Argentina a few months ago, and that part of the story is often overlooked. But the amount of Jewish immigration going there and European immigration going there is another interesting story, as that was an economic success when the turn of the century rolled around.
Interesting. It's like a lot of background for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question, let me see. Okay, so nearly 80% of Jewish Americans say they feel a strong connection to Israel. How significant is this connection when considering Jewish or American Jewish identity?
Yeah, I mean that's an important question, especially in light of what's happened in the last little over a year.
Yeah, yeah.
We're talking on October 16th, and October 7th was the day when Hamas terrorists raped, murdered, took hostages of Jews inside Israel, and there's been an ongoing war ever since. So that is now spread and in a lot of ways includes Lebanon and Iran. So I think this is a question that a lot of American Jews have been grappling with. Um, Within my family, I would say there are others for whom this is a more um, a bigger part of their identity, I guess we could say. So, I guess to give a little more family context, on my mom's side, um, two of her brothers, so my uncles married Israeli women. Um, so for them and their one of them has since passed away, but for their spouses and kids, this is very relevant because they have Israeli relatives, Israeli in-laws, um, people who they're related to, or in some cases themselves, have served in the Israeli armed forces since there's a draft in Israel. So, in their circumstance, this is a very direct sort of connection. And for me, there's some some element of directness, just because I do have family that lives there, not because I'm descended from an Israeli bloodline per se, but because I have American relatives who married Israelis and moved there, or have families who lives there on the Israeli side. On my dad's side of the family, the topic of Israel is very relevant and important as well. My dad's parents, my grandparents are deceased, but they would regularly make trips to Israel. They would talk about Israel a lot. My aunts will talk about Israel a lot to this day. And for a lot of American Jews, I think Israel is very much a part of the American experience. Whenever we go to synagogue, there's an Israeli flag alongside an American flag, and in many cases, a Texas flag. There are prayers for the state of Israel, prayers for the Israeli armed forces, just as there are prayers for the United States of America and U.S. armed forces included in these services. Um, for me personally, I've been to Israel once. I went in the summer of 2010 for my cousin's bar mitzvah. I have been intending to go back for a few years, but in light of recent circumstances, it's not particularly feasible. Um, I travel a lot internationally, though. So for me, um, it's not. There are a lot of American Jews where Israel is like the only place that they go when they go overseas. For me, I love exploring the world and going to different countries. But Israel certainly, resonates a little more um, in a lot of ways than like France or New Zealand or Australia or some other countries I've been to. But at the same time, I I I guess so this is something I've been grappling with my formulating that, but um, it certainly is an important place and an important issue for most North American Jews, and it certainly does resonate because of the Jewish connection and because of the family connection I have, more so than just another random country on the map would.
Okay, so you would say it definitely has a strong connection to like Jewish identity, for sure.
I would say, yeah, for based on what I have seen and experienced, it has a strong connection to Jewish identity for most North American Jews, U.S. Jews, Canadian Jews. For me, I would say it is a piece of my Jewish identity, but I don't feel as strong of a connection to it as a lot of other American Jews do. Maybe that's how I would put it.
Okay, okay, I see.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And my parents, I went to Israel, um, about like a year and a half ago, like right before it got, I think it kind of got worse over there, but they went over to
Yeah.
Israel and they went to some like ancient sites and it was really cool for them. Um, it's expensive, but it was cool.
Yeah, it's I mean it's an amazing experience, and not just for Jews. When I went there in 2010, like in addition to seeing Jewish sites of significance to Jews, like you can also see where Jesus was baptized or where Jesus is buried, and um, yeah, uh, harder to access as a Jew, of course, but like the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque are in Jerusalem, extremely important sites for Muslims, and having all of these sites near each other is part of the cause of tensions. But yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating place. So many important historic and religious events have occurred there.
Yeah, for sure, it's full of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question is, do you believe there are specific aspects of Jewish identity that are commonly shared with other American identities? And if so, what are they?
Hmm. That's an interesting question. Um, So I feel like for most American Jews, um, there's a tremendous amount of assimilation. There would be some exceptions, maybe for more Hasidic Jews and ultra-Orthodox Jews uh, in New York, in particular. So, like on Long Island, uh, and in Brooklyn, there will be Jewish communities that live more of an isolated existence, I guess. But for most American Jews, in my experience, it seems like um, Judaism is, like it's one piece of the identity, it's one aspect of life,
Okay.
um, but it's very much a situation where the American component is as important, if not more important, and as I said earlier, I think for me more important than um, the Jewish identity. So I think a lot of the characteristics of American Jews um, are just kind of universal American characteristics, things that are just part of the experience of living in the U.S. Some of the values that we have and things related to hard work and honesty and kindness and charity and a lot of these family, community, a lot of these things that we might identify as being a part of the American experience um, that carry over because American Jews don't exist in a bubble. It's very much this is very much a group of people that is active in American society and that is fully a part of the way things operate in the U.S.
Okay. Okay, so you think that there's like a lot of commonalities between um, the both of them?
Yeah, a lot of commonalities. I mean, I don't feel like uh, they're not they're they're almost like coexisting layers, I guess, maybe.
Okay.
Like they're things that for I think for most American Jews, it's like both of these are a part of who we are, the Jewish part and the American part.
Okay. Interesting. Um, so last question is, based on these questions and your responses, do you think that, I guess, like from your experiences, do you reflect typical or atypical experiences for someone who identifies as a Jewish in America?
Okay. So I would say there are a lot of things that are typical. I would say my upbringing in suburbia and kind of the role that Judaism would play in my life as a kid, where we were celebrating Jewish holidays, going to Hebrew school, religious school on the weekends, on a weeknight, having a bar mitzvah. Um, that is all very typical for American Jews. Um, Having kind of a social network, I guess, almost connected to that as a kid. Very sort of typical thing. And then I think a lot of my experiences as an adult would also be typical in the sense that uh, generally, for better or for worse, myself included here, a lot of American Jews don't go to synagogue as much as they enter early stages of adulthood and are not attending services with the same regularity as when you are a kid and as when you have kids. So I think in a lot of ways it's typical. I think one area where my own uh, where my own uh, perspective and circumstances maybe are a little different, I guess, are you asked about Israel earlier, where I do have these family connections through relatives getting married to Israelis to Israel, but I also feel like, in spite of that, I don't. Although the Israel issue does matter to me, I maybe don't feel as strongly about it as some other Jews, and I feel like I prioritize my um, identity as an American and as a Texan in a lot of ways over my identity as a Jew. So that might be something that's a little bit different. But I think a lot, I guess another way that maybe this is a little different is that when I was in high school, I went to high school with about 3,000 students, maybe 15 were Jewish, so that's like 0.5%.
Oh wow.
Um, when I was working at Sci-Fair and you were going there, maybe you know something that I don't about this, but across my 5 years of working there, I'm only aware of one family that sent their kids to Sci-Fair and went to synagogue and identified as Jewish. Maybe you know some people that I don't, but
No, I did
um,
not.
I mean, there's another Jewish faculty member who at one point uh, we discussed the possibility of starting a Jewish student association, and we ultimately decided against it because we were only aware of two Jews in the school,
Oh wow.
student-wise, who were twin brothers who were going to be seniors at that point, and they didn't know anyone else, so the idea kind of died. So I think that's something that is um, different and similar, I guess. There are a lot of American Jews who maybe feel like kind of um, oddballs in going to schools and living in communities that don't have a lot of Jews. But there are also a lot of American Jews where they are surrounded by larger Jewish communities. Where my dad grew up in Massachusetts, about 25% of his high school was Jewish. And in his town, all the students, Jewish and otherwise, would not go to school on the two most important holidays of the Jewish religion, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. They would get those off just as Christmas or Thanksgiving. There wouldn't be school. So I think that's something that maybe is a little bit different in places where there's a larger Jewish population. So I guess maybe that's typical and atypical, right? There are a lot of Jews who grow up in places that don't have a lot of other Jews around them, and there are a lot of Jews who grow up in places that are much more predominantly Jewish and where Judaism is much more part of um, the larger culture and environment.
That's very interesting. I knew there was a small amount of Jews in school, but I didn't think that there was that little.
Yeah, I mean, unless you know someone that I don't,
No,
which
I
I
didn't.
mean, I feel like if there were other Jewish students at some point, this would have been brought to my attention.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah, and but like different. Yeah, there are, although Houston doesn't have that large of a Jewish population compared to a lot of other major cities, like not just New York, like cities like Boston, Philadelphia, even Cleveland, like they have much larger Jewish populations than Houston does. And some people are surrounded by a lot of Jews all the time.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Um, well, that's it for the interview. Um, I get responses. It's interesting. I like I like understanding like different cultures and stuff. So it's amazing. It's
Good,
amazing hearing like other sides of like someone else's perspective.
good. I hope this was helpful.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
extremely helpful.
I feel like some of my answers are a little rambling, but I hope I gave you enough stuff you can use.
And they're good. Like some of the questions, I'm like, how would like how would he answer this? Like they kind of like to me they're kind of vague and but you answered excellently. So
Okay, wonderful. So what's the rest of the assignment? Do you have to like write a paper about this or compile several different interviews? How all does this work?
okay, so we have a research question, and I guess the interview is kind of general. You're just comparing like seeing like a Jewish person's background and like how they're similar or not similar to a typical Jewish person. And I guess from that information, we're compiling, I guess, research for like a research question. Um, and we're gonna like present to the class like our research question and how we compared like the interview to like what information we got from that to relate to the interview, to relate to the research question. And then we're also gonna compile like a secondary source to add on to that. So yeah, that's worth like it's for 30% of the grade. So
Awesome. How did you end up taking this class? Was it like you had to have a random elective in there and this one stood out?
uh, yeah, like I need to make a cultural discourse and there were some options for this class like I go to church so and I feel like it kind of like I guess I get to learn some background about like the Bible and stuff like that. So kind of just, I felt like it connected with me the most, but it also fit the best in my schedule as well. So,
Wonderful.
but yeah,
All right. Well, yeah, let me know anything else you need, anything else I can help with. Feel free to reach out anytime.
okay, I got you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. All right. When is all this due?
Um, this is, I think there's like stages to the project. I think next stage is due October 23rd, but the whole project is due, I think, like November, I want to say mid-November.
Okay.
But yeah,
All right. Keep me updated on how it goes. Good
okay, I
luck with
got you.
everything, Miguel.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's good talking to you
Of
again.
course. Absolutely. Great seeing you. Keep me updated on things. Good luck with this.
Actually, thank you so much.
All right. Have a great night.
You as well.